Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are once again back to continue our WrestleMania recap and reaction series. We have finished WrestleMania 1 and 2, and of course, we are now at WrestleMania, which took place on Monday, March 29th, 1987, at the Pontiac Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. And the announced attendance for this WrestleMania was 93,173. The tagline for this WrestleMania was bigger, better, and badder. So just so we know, this was always WWE's moniker. Every year is the best ever. Not something new, even dating back to WrestleMania 3 and before, I'm sure. Yeah, very interesting fact for WrestleMania 3. Vince blacked out the pay-per-view basically throughout the entire state of Michigan. So meaning, essentially, if you wanted to watch it, you had to buy a ticket and go there live. And with that attendance rate, you would maybe argue that it did work. So, just like every other WrestleMania we've gone through so far, we're going to go through every single match and discuss and hit our ratings and then give a rating overall for the WrestleMania as a whole. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the kickoff match, which featured the Can-Am Connection going up against Cowboy Bob Orton and Magnificent Muraco. KP, in terms of opening matches, how did you like this one comparatively speaking? And do you feel like this one fit the bill as an opening match for WrestleMania?
In terms of the opening matches that we've already discussed, throughout WrestleMania 1 and 2, and obviously you had the WrestleMania 2, the three different locations, so technically, I guess, three intro matches. That's a strange dynamic, but regardless, I guess there's three in that one. This one's probably near top of the pile. I would say there was one that I think it was the third um, intro match of WrestleMania 2 that I think might have been just a tad better than this one. But this one, nonetheless, was not too bad at all. The Can-Am Connection, they seem to be a pretty nice, well-connected, blending tag team, to be fair, from what I saw from this matchup. I honestly wasn't too familiar with this team. I know them as individuals, but not so much as a team together. But seeing them, just competing and, getting started at WrestleMania 3 here in our opening contest, I thought it was actually a pretty decent start. Like, it was quite fun to watch. Thought they gelled very well together. Tag team moves were fluid. And yeah, then you got the other side of the coin, which is obviously Cowboy Bob Orton and Don Muraco, and it's a very different style that they adopt. They've got a much more sort of I don't know, like a brute mentality. Just sort of like fighting. Doing whatever they can by any means necessary to get the job done. Definitely that was the vibe that I got at the very early stages. Obviously, face and heels, that makes sense. The dynamic was well done. And yeah, I think lots of lovely tag moves from Can-Am Connection. The other team working well as a heel group as well. And then, yeah, the way that the match was won, obviously you had Mr. Fuji on the outside as well. So he was accompanying Don Muraco and Cowboy Bob Orton. But you have a high crossbody on Muraco, which was enough to sort of get the win after Orton was sent to ringside literally moments prior. It was just like a combination move that we'd seen. Like there was like a duck down just beforehand, which then allowed the crossbody to take place, sort of thing. But yeah, it was really good chemistry from the Can-Am Connection. I did quite like them as a team. In terms of the match overall, I gave this a 6 out of 10. And yeah, like I said, I think that in comparison to the other WrestleMania openers, this wasn't too bad at all. I think there was only one that I think was probably better than this one so far. But yeah, I think it was a decent start to WrestleMania. It wasn't bad at all, and it wasn't like anything like ultimately superb.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I felt like the ending was a bit sudden, and made the match feel, a bit short. But this kind of opens our eyes, and essentially what we've talked about in the first two WrestleManias, the highest success rate has come from the tag team matches in terms of overall rating for all the match types. Tag matches have definitely been on the higher end of things, and you can really see that formula open wide up here for WrestleMania 3. I believe there were five total throughout the card, tag matches. So Vince definitely, realizing that formula was giving him some success. So we definitely see that hit hard here. A couple of new tag teams that we hadn't seen before on the WrestleMania stage, and Kingdom Connection being one of them. But yeah, I thought this was a quality, just short match that kind of did what it needed to, and as you kind of mentioned, nothing more. So I gave this one a 5 out of 10, a decent start to kick off the WrestleMania 3. Getting into the next match, we have Billy Jack Haynes going up against Hercules Hernandez in a full Nelson challenge. And yeah, this is a unique match type I personally have never seen. And we've seen Hercules before. We have not seen Billy Jack Haynes on the WrestleMania stage. KP, what did you make of this unique match type? And of course, the finish, I think, is a topical one.
Yeah, this was a really interesting matchup, like very different from anything that I've probably seen before. Just like just working on that full Nelson challenge type thing from both men. Um, yeah, it had a strange dynamic to it, but I actually quite liked it. I thought that as a general, the match was quite fun to watch. I think it was quite engaging. I was sort of like captivated by both men, although they're like they're quite big guys. The stature between them is monstrous. They've got some great physiques. But when it comes to how they sort of put on the match together, I thought it meshed together really well. To be honest, it just flowed really nicely. Obviously, you got that classic heel face dynamic, which I think, if anything, that was done really well back in the early WrestleManias. It was definitely the face heel dynamic. It's been so ever present in all the matches that we've basically been talking about, and you could really say the same thing about every single one of them for the most part. So that's something that I just want to pick up quickly there and point out the consistency of, and it showed up in this match as well. Yeah, the match ending though, I was a little bummed out about, because I was quite enjoying it up until the finish. This one ended in a double count out after Billy Jack Haynes has the full Nelson in the ring. Hercules escapes to ringside, which brings Billy Jack with him. He locks it in again. And he keeps it locked in until the referee counts them both out. So I guess naturally you could say that Billy was in control and, had the ascendancy in the late stages. But ultimately it does go on the record as a double count out, so nobody really was the winner here. You got Bobby the Brain Heenan. He's hitting Billy with a knee to the back. Like, that starts like a little bit of cat and mouse, which leads into the ring. With Billy distracted, Hercules wraps a chain around his fist and actually smashes it against the face of Billy several times. This is all post-match. This is after the double counter has taken place. But obviously you can see the animosity still there after the bell, and these guys really didn't want to sort of like leave it just there, especially Hercules Hernandez, not too happy with the result, and wanted to inflict some further punishment post-match. But yeah, Billy was busted open. It was quite a cool finish, I guess, in that sense, like after the contest had ended. But yeah, would have loved to have seen a better way of actually finishing the matchup itself. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. Thought the heel work, was great from Hercules. Really good comeback from Billy towards the end as well. Like I said, just that's little storytelling bits of the matchup was quite nice, and I think as a general the match was really solid. It's just it's a big shame that the finish for me I didn't personally agree with. What did you make of this one, Nick? I'm speaking quite highly of it. What did you make of it though?
Oh, kind of speaking about the tag match theme, another theme is that of DQ, roll out or roll up and count out finishes. And I don't know if it's just this project we're working on going through the WrestleManias, but now this being the third, I'm just kind of getting tired. I'm getting tired of these kind of essentially crap finishes, and I think it really takes away from the matches themselves. In modern day, I hate it. I hate a good roll up or DQ finish, especially when it's done over and over. Every single ending, has its place. Type of ending has its place, but when it's done over and over and it's all you see, it gets a bit annoying, and this kind of plays exactly into that. The match type itself was unique. Both guys really looked good and had a quality match going. And then the count out. I think part of the issue is obviously double count out's not an ideal finish. Nobody wins. But the other bit is they hadn't quite mastered how to get the ref basically counting in the broadcast. So I think that's part of it, is the unknown factor of it. You're enjoying yourself and then all of a sudden you're not because the match is over. I think had they done a better job of getting the ref in there, showing the counts, I think that kind of helps with the issue. But yeah, I think you make the match continue, or you make it a DQ, and you get the busted open with the chain during the match, and then imagine that getting the full Nelson and that being the finish. I think you have a really good match and one of the better matches of WrestleMania 3. But because that double count out and the way it suddenly finished when it felt like we had something really good brewing, I think that's the biggest issue for me. So I give this one a 5 out of 10. It's a pain because it felt like we were really building something special with this one, and suddenly cut off. Uh, Getting on to the next match. This is a topical one. I think that's fair to say. We have Hillbilly Gem with two midget wrestlers and Little Beaver and the Haiti Kid going up against King Kong Bundy with Lord Littlebrook and Little Tokyo. Um, yeah, what a change of scenery for King Kong Bundy, going from WrestleMania 2, the main event with Hulk Hogan and the very first steel cage match, going to this match. This match was treated like a mixed match challenge, and that essentially, everyone had to pick on someone their own size. So the writing was definitely on the wall here. The commentary team. Just completely out of pocket for some of the things they say during this match. A different era, I think that's fair to say. Um, yeah, KP, let us hear your thoughts on this one, and yeah, your rating overall. I think this is just one of those matches that we're just gonna have to do our best.
Well, that's certainly one way of putting it. This was just bizarre to say the least. I genuinely had no idea this match existed prior to watching through WrestleMania 3 as part of this project we're doing, and I was brought to attention immediately when the guys made their entrances and the build up happened, like just beforehand, whatever. Yeah, uh, I didn't know what to think, to be honest. It was just so captivating and bizarre to watch. I couldn't keep my eyes off of it. I said that about a couple of matches actually, doing this so far, but this one definitely fits that bill. Um, I I don't have an awful lot of good things to say about it, except for it was an interesting concept. The commentary team, like you said, the commentary team was absolutely savage throughout throughout this match, especially Jesse Ventura. He did not have any filter on whatsoever, and he was just basically speaking his mind. He is the guy, he literally just says exactly how it is. That's literally what he's known for. And yeah, he didn't hold up in this one for sure. It was a wild matchup. You've got you've got you got King Kong Bundy, who, like you said, he main evented WrestleMania the year before, but then the year before that he had a really short, quick matchup, and now he's doing this. Like, he has had the most turbulent WrestleMania like matches in probably the history, right? That who has a wilder first three WrestleMania matches than this guy? Like, I dare anyone to challenge that. I don't think it's possible. But yeah, you've got. Let me talk a little bit about how the match went down. King Kong Bundy towards the finish here power slams Little Beaver. So one of the little people in the matchup, before hitting an elbow drop on him when the referee was looking to cause the disqualification. Oh yeah, when the referee was looking, so that obviously caused a disqualification there. So ending in a DQ finish, which is I know something that Nick is going to be absolutely loving. Post match, you got King Kong Bundy's teammates. That'll be Little Tokyo and Lord Littlebrook. They sort of like stand up for Little Beaver, and they essentially just sort of like, tell King Kong Bundy like, no, stop, like he's done, sort of thing. King Kong Bundy gets into a little bit of a strop, heads out the ring, and he's heading back up the ramp in that little like travelator, escalator, whatever you want to call it, the lift thingy that they've got that takes them back and forth down the ramp. And he's giving it large when he's going up. This absolute mammoth of a man is giving it large to these little people in this matchup, and it was just an absolutely just bizarre experience of my life. Like, I don't understand the build. I'd love to know how this one came about because I don't have the knowledge and the history of knowing that. But I would love to know what exactly got us to this point because it's bizarre to say the least. And like you said, yeah, like a mixed tag team matchup. You know, the little people fight the little people, and then the big guys fight the big guys. So it was, yeah, it was certainly something. I gave it a 2.5 out of 10 purely for the fact that I was interested and captivated by it. But was it a good match? Oh, absolutely far from that. It was it was not. But my God, I could not take my eyes off of it.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, we have local places around us called like midget wrestling. So like it's still very much a thing. Um I just, as you mentioned, I hadn't seen it. I hadn't heard of it. Obviously, this isn't on so anyone's top 10 list, maybe top 10 most bizarre. I think that's fair to say. Just a size difference because you have, Hillbilly Jim and King Kong Bundy, who are both massive in stature. Seeing them go up against each other was interesting enough. It's just, yeah, this one just didn't have a ton to go off of. And that elbow drop actually very interesting because that wasn't supposed to happen. Apparently, the other little people in the match were supposed to come in and basically save Little Beaver from taking that punishment, but we're late in getting there. So King Kong Bundy decided it upon himself to go ahead and hit that elbow, and yeah, that ended up being the last match for Little Beaver. He called it quits after this one. So that was his retirement match. If you want to correlate, that's on you. But I think it's certainly a big coincidence, if nothing else at all. But yeah, definitely a match that I think will go down as one of the most interesting matches. Let's go on and kick off the next match, which has King Harley Race with Bobby the Brain Heenan and Fabulous Moolah going against a JYD Junkyard Dog in a loser bows match. So essentially, the loser has to kneel before who will now be known as the King of Wrestling. What did you think of this one?
I think you define like mediocrity. I think this is a great example of that. This one could have been pretty good, I think, realistically speaking, but everything that happened, it just happened way too soon, too quickly. Like I was kind of getting into it, and then like it ended straight away, and I was like, all right, well that's that then, isn't it? So yeah, I don't know. I think maybe because of the 12 matches that we have on these WrestleManias, we had 12 on WrestleMania 2, 12 on this one. There's a lot of substance, but there's no real quality within it. I think a lot of the matches suffer because of that. There is a match or two that you can make, arguments for that are really good on this show, and rightfully so. But in terms of, just matches like this, I think they really do suffer from from the amount of matches that we have on this show. But speaking of this one specifically and more sort of in detail for what it actually is, yeah, I mean, yeah, an interesting concept, obviously with the whole kneeling thing post match, like an agreement type situation. Bobby Heenan, he's at ringside distracting Junkyard Dog. That leaves an opening for Harley to hit a belly to belly suplex to get the win. And the weird thing is with this one, I don't like watching the match. I'm not even sure what the finish was meant to be. Like whatever happened. Like what happened in the ring? I'm really confused if it was actually meant to go down that way because like you've got JYD down for the cover, Harley goes for the cover as well, and like the referee he counts like the normal 2 count, and then the 3rd count comes really slowly, and then Junkyard Dog almost looks like he's kicking out literally on the 3 count. It's like an image on the left hand side there, that's literally on the 3. You can see the referee's hand going down. That's going down really slowly, and Junkyard Dog's like legs are up because he's literally doing the kick out on that image. So I don't know whether like he was meant to or something, and the match just ended a little early, and that's why it felt so flat. But yeah, maybe that was the planned finish. If so, horrible decision as well. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. Maybe there's some in-ring politics between the two men. I don't know. That's just a theory. It's not an assumption, just a theory. But yeah, as it played at the end, JYD, he's bowing to Harley. He gives a little curtsy as well. And then he actually picks up a steel chair that Harley was sat on, whacks him over with it, and then takes his robe and just heads down the lift with it. So yeah, it was an okay match. There was nothing great about it, nothing I guess tremendously shocking about it. But just that weird little finish that I would like to sort of like piece together in my head, and I'm struggling to do so. What did you make of the finish as well, Nick? Do you think that was how it was meant to be, with that really like late, almost on the 3 kick out from JYD? Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one, right? It's not just me, is it?
No, and the finish kind of reminds me similar to that of, ironically enough, someone who's pictured here, which was that fabulous Moolah Velveteen Velvet, excuse me, match from WrestleMania 2. The type of cover that Harley Race has on JYD kind of reminds you of that. And yeah, the finish, I mean, there wasn't much else to write about, but the finish itself, yeah, did feel awkward because of that kick out. I know I have a history of Junkyard Dog not loving his place within WWE, felt he deserved better, and so far through the 3 WrestleManias, he's one of my more liked competitors. I really like his whole gimmick, but. I think, we don't ever get political here, but I think you could just on its face, the kind of gimmick or the type of match here certainly, is pressing some limits for sure. But yeah, I think you give this another 5 minutes, and it feels like I feel like probably sound like a broken record at this point, because I've been saying that through the first 3, but it just didn't have enough time to do much else. So yeah, that kind of the finish, the belly to belly suplex, not a typical finish, and not much more before that to kind of chew on. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard of any rumors about this match, and maybe there was some in ring politics going on here, but the best part of the match, or lack, maybe post match, I guess we call. And JYD says, "Screw the rules," and grabs the crowd and acts as if he's the king of wrestling, anyways. So I think that's the best ending. I think, like I said, you draw some lines there with kind of the story that's being told. And I've heard tons of Harley Race drop. I know I'm familiar with the name. Lots and lots of stories from Ric Flair about him. But yeah, I just didn't get very much from him. And JYD, we know he is capable of better as well. This just wasn't it. I gave this match a 3 out of 10. And like you said, lots, and this is one of the notes I had for the final bit, but I'll mention it a little more in detail later. And that is just a lot of these matches had a good concept to them, but just didn't get enough time. So a lot of them really struggled in that department, and struggled for me to connect with them. And a lot of these matches I just won't ever want to come back to, because they just didn't have enough time to build a connection with us, the audience. Moving on to the next match, we kick off another tag team match. Like I said, almost half the matches of WrestleMania 3 were tag matches. So Vince clearly catching on to what, from our reviews, that we like the most. The tag team matches seem to be the most consistent. This tag team match consisted of the Dream Team once again, Brutus Beefcake and Greg the Hammer Valentine, with Luscious Johnny Valiant and Gino Bravo, going up against the Rogue Brothers. This is another interesting one, with the finish kind of flipping on its head what we've seen in prior years. KP, what did you make of this match? Did this one live up to that tag expectation, which has become pretty lofty with us for over the first 3 WrestleManias?
There have been a fair few tag team matches so far, obviously, in the first 3 ones we've done. I think this was probably near the bottom of the lists that we've had so far, for me personally. It wasn't a bad tag team match, but it wasn't like quite as good as the others that we've seen, I think. I think it was okay. It was fine. Like it was a very okay match, and that seems to be the theme for a lot of these matches on this show. I know I'm not going to go into what I did in the last one, but it's really difficult to really get excited about some of these, because they are all very sort of like similar paced and similar styled. So enough about that. But anyway, it was okay. Yeah, you've got like a little bit of carnage that happens in the ring. You got tag team moves throughout the entirety of the contest. Just want to point out Jesse Ventura, who has been on commentary all evening, and he's basically saying throughout the night that how much he detests tag team moves. So basically, he absolutely hates tag team wrestling, because every time someone makes a tag and they do like a combination move where they're in the ring for a few seconds afterwards, and then obviously they're back on the apron. He's very much letting and everybody know that he is not a fan of what's happening, and that is a running theme throughout the course of the evening. He's always on the referee's case. Count him, ref. Count him out. He shouldn't be in there. He's very clear about what he thinks of it. I love tag team wrestling. I think tandem moves are wonderful, and double team action is always great. But yeah, when it comes to how this one was playing out, you got all the carnage going down. You got Dino Bravo, sorry, who hits a knee drop. He's like he gets up on the on the near side on the apron, gets onto the top turnbuckle, hits that knee drop while the referee's not looking, and that allows Greg Valentine to turn over the cover that was already in place and to get the victory in the end. So yeah, the referee being distracted allowing that to happen. But yeah, there was some nice combination moves. Post match was interesting because you had Dream Team just leaving Brutus Beefcake in the ring. Not entirely sure what that was about. I'm guessing if I knew the build, it would maybe make a little bit more sense. But apparently they did kick him out, like basically in this moment, and then afterwards he's no longer part of it. So that was quite interesting. Like it seems a little bit flat from my perspective, but then again I didn't watch the build up, so I'm not sure if maybe if you did, this would have made a lot more sense, and B, you maybe would have seen it coming, and C, maybe like it actually was a decent way of doing it based on how the build went down. So I thought that was quite a weird interaction at the end, but yeah, it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, not a bad tag team match, but nothing spectacular. 5.5 for me. I think probably towards the bottom of the pile of the tag matches that we have seen so far.
But you raised a good point. WrestleMania is supposed to be for the casual viewer, and I think we kind of fit that bill for a casual viewer in this instance, in that we didn't watch the build, and it was a while ago. I think that's fair to say. But yeah, Brutus Beefcake getting left here. I wish commentary, Jesse in particular, has no problem expressing his displeasure when it occurs. So I think they could have done probably a better job of kind of explaining to us what was going on here. I think, just the eye test, clearly he was left out of something. He's confused. He doesn't know what's going on. But then he is clearly a face because we see him later on helping a good guy. So, yeah, and we kind of hit on that, or you kind of hit on that earlier. WWE at this point definitely knows how to work that heel face dynamic, and so they could have done, I think, a better job of kind of explaining to us what was going on here. But yeah, in terms of this match itself, yeah, another kind of interference, very, very popular, especially on this WrestleMania and back then. But yeah, just didn't get quite enough time, I don't think. It was decent enough for what it was, but as you mentioned, kind of towards the lower tier of tag matches we see so far for WrestleMania 3. I give this one a 4.5 out of 10. Again, just needed 5 more minutes, and if I had a counter, it'd be up there for the first 3 Manias. Getting on to the next match, we have Roddy Piper going up against, once again, we see the adorable Adrian Adonis. And he's, of course, accompanied by the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, which we got a kick out of how much he is involved. This was the first of 3, I believe, of his appearances. So definitely earning his paycheck. It was announced, and you could tell from the crowd, excuse me, that this was the retirement match for Piper. So, yeah, the crowd was very hot for Piper here, and rightfully so. I mean, from what we've seen the first 3 Manias, he is very gifted in ring and on the mic. And yeah, this was very much hit hard by the broadcasting team. This was his final match in WWE. So, KP, what did you think of this match, the old hair versus hair? And as we kind of mentioned, we see Brutus come back and help the face, and here he is, seen here taking out the orders of taking someone's hair. So it's been a while. We've seen it before, but it's been a while since we've seen one of these matches. What do you think of this one?
Not bad. Similar vibe with most of these matches on this show. Yeah, the crowd was electric. They were unbelievably loud for Roddy Piper, and deservedly so. I always, have a lot of good things to say about Piper, just generally speaking. And yeah, you could tell that he was loving it in the ring. He was having so much fun, and B, obviously, he was enjoying the reception that he got from the crowd, literally from start to finish. They were always, giving him enough noise, and it was a great thing to watch. It was really, really great. Yeah, we've talked about a little bit more about the match. Hair versus hair, quite interesting. There have been a few of these down the line, right? We've seen a few every now and then, and yeah, I mean, he wouldn't want to shave off someone else's hair in a match, right? Isn't it? It's a crazy thing to do at the end of a contest, especially if it's someone that you absolutely dislike. Um, yeah, let's talk about the match itself. So Adrian, he's got a sleeper locked in toward the end. He thinks he's won it, so he lets go. But he lets go a bit too soon. They've got like a system sometimes using wrestling, I think especially a lot more in the early days for WrestleMania, this sort of era, where they'd sort of like put the arms up, then drop it, and then they do that 3 times in a row. And then if it drops on the 3rd time, you submit. You're basically tapping out and you lose by submission. But in this instance, the referee does it twice. Roddy Piper's hand goes down twice, obviously, and Adonis thinks that maybe he can't count. I don't know, and he thinks it's 3, and he thinks he's won. So he lets go. He's celebrating. Jimmy Hart's in the ring. They're dancing around, celebrating together. But yeah, obviously the match isn't over. Whilst they're celebrating, Brutus Beefcake coming on in to wake up Roddy Piper, literally like slapping in the face, shaking him over, whatever, to wake him up. I thought Brutus was attacking him at first, and then realized, oh no, he's helping him, he's waking him up. Okay, fair enough, this makes more sense. And then yeah, Piper gets on a big comeback, locks in a sleeper of his own on Adrian Adonis, and yeah, does get the victory in the end. So in his what would be, his, I guess, retirement match, if you want to call it that, but it was built up to be at the time, so let's treat it like it was. So in his retirement match, getting a victory, it makes perfect sense for Piper based on the adulation of the crowd. What would happen afterwards? Shaving the hair off of Adonis. Yeah, it's a couple of big moments for sure, and you got Brutus Beefcake doing that whilst Piper was keeping Jimmy Hart at bay. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool, but in terms of the match rating that I gave this one, I gave it a 5.5 out of 10. Like I said, I think the crowd made this one feel a lot better than it probably was. It was an okay match. It wasn't anything clinical or technically gifted, but it was a fine match between both men. What did you make of it, Nick?
Yeah, the crowd does deserve a shout, and comparatively speaking, for the first 3 WrestleManias, this was by far the biggest and best crowd in terms of reaction and noise level. So I think that certainly helps. I think a lot of these matches would be rated lower, at least for me, without that crowd. We say that all the time. During current product, a good crowd can definitely make the show better, and a bad crowd can definitely make it worse. And this was no exception. The crowd was super hot for Piper, thinking this is his last match, like Hogan levels of hot here, and rightfully so. Yeah, the ending, yeah, as like I mentioned earlier, had Brutus gotten a better explanation from the commentary team, that he was kind of, just I guess like that. He's a face now coming in. I too thought he was attacking Piper, but he was not. He was aiding him. He was trying to rejuvenate him, getting the win there. And then after the match, of course, cutting Adonis's hair, and then Roddy just coming in, kind of showing the camera, throwing pieces of hair at the crowd, which yeah, that's not something I would want to be a part of. But regardless, an interesting match. And like I said, been a while since we've seen a hair match. And didn't think for a second that Roddy was going to lose that. But interesting fact about this one. Apparently, about 13 days earlier, Roddy was in Los Angeles and ended up getting electrocuted, I guess. He was in the shower room, and there was an exposed outlet or switch or something of that sort, which in the shower room, that's an issue. I guess got electrocuted a bit and basically got thrown back 2 or 3 feet, and was pretty nauseous over the next good fair few days. So interesting tidbit there, and that this was his retirement match, and WWE Universe here really letting him have it. One of the best reactions of the night. But yeah, in terms of match itself, yeah, it was decent enough. Gave it a 5 out of 10. Just lacked something super memorable, outside of the post match happening. So let's get on to the next match, which has the Hart Foundation and Dangerous Danny Davis with Jimmy Hart, his second appearance, going up against the British Bulldogs and one of my favorites, Tito Santana. So the original plan for this match was supposed to be the British Bulldogs and going up against the Hart Foundation, because the Hart Foundation were the ones that took the tag titles. You notice the tag titles on Brett and Jim's waist. They were the ones that took it from the British Bulldogs. We saw them win it, of course, last year at WrestleMania 2. But the Dynamite Kid's health was a huge concern at the time. And so they decided to add Tito and Danny Davis to kind of help take some pressure off of it. Of course, that did make this a non-title bout, which I noticed looking at the card pretty early on, that there were only 2 title matches throughout this whole WrestleMania. So there's your reasoning as to why those titles weren't on the line. So interesting enough. But yeah, KP, tag matches, featuring the likes of the British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation. This one has to be good, right? What'd you think of this one?
Again, not a bad match, nothing overly incredible or special. I think, when you've got 2 teams such as this, I think, you do expect quite a lot maybe. And, especially with the Hart Foundation being such a, quality team over the years. British Bulldogs, no slouches in their own right as well. Very, very good tag team as well. And then obviously you've got the other couple of guys involved as well, Danny Davis and Tito Santana. I think there's a whole lot of quality in this one, and I think a large part of the dynamic being towards the late stages, especially being Danny Davis and his involvement in the contest, and Bulldogs wanting to get to him, and basically just knock him down a couple of pegs. And he does get that in the end. He gets probably demolished for a good couple of minutes or so, just worn down bit by bit. And it gets to a point where Davey Boy does go for a cover. That results in the Hart Foundation getting into the ring, and they end up brawling, together. It gets to a point where the referee's distracted by all the commotion. Jimmy Hart, who's on the outside, he passes Danny his megaphone. Danny gets up in one absolutely quick, swift motion, to be fair to him, smashes Davey Boy around the head, and in the same motion, somehow managed to give Jimmy Hart the megaphone back. I watched it back on slow-mo a good 4 or 5 times because I needed to see how effortless it looked, and it really is effortless. It's a very smooth transition. But yeah, he passes it back to Jimmy Hart and goes for the cover to get the victory. Referee does eventually look around and count 1, 2, 3. So a little bit of commotion in the ring, distraction, healer stuff from Jimmy Hart. He, like you said, he's involved all over the show. This guy, every WrestleMania, he's everywhere. He's always involved. So it's certainly something. There are a lot of people represented by him. He does such a good job of it as well. But yeah, the match itself was okay. I gave it a 5.5 out of 10. I think that maybe we could have seen a bit more from this one personally, but yeah, it wasn't too bad. It was an interesting way of finishing it as well. And Danny Davis clearly disliked by everybody, but getting that victory and much to the crowd's displeasure. So yeah, certainly a fascinating way to finish it as well.
Yeah, I think the rating definitely suffers when you see 2 tag teams like this that we know, just historically speaking, and seeing them on the recent WrestleManias, that this could have been a very good tag match. And maybe it would have been had we not had that third member. But again, Dynamite health a grave concern, and potentially not even going to have the match in the first place. So obviously that played a part. But then Danny Davis grabbing that microphone, it was very quick. Actually, I missed it. I looked down for a second and I did miss it. So the replay obviously showing us what happened. I thought I saw him knocked down, but I didn't know how it happened. I just assumed Jimmy Hart was up there, around the commotion. I assumed he did it, but no, that was a pretty smooth transfer, as you mentioned, but very, very quick. And for as little as Danny contributed, I think he was mostly the punching bag for him to get the win. Really had to irk that crowd being attended there. But it was a technical match, and I dubbed it the most entertaining match up to that point, which I think just kind of shows you kind of the lack of substance that a lot of these matches provided us in WrestleMania 3. But yeah, all of a sudden, Jimmy Hart's megaphone has more victories than half the talent in WWE, at least on the WrestleMania stage. So yeah, second appearance for Jimmy Hart, and just felt like what could have been. I think is really what I walked away with this one from, and I gave this one a 6 out of 10. Getting on to the next match, we have the natural Butch Reed going up against Koko Beware. Koko Beware comes down with a parrot on his shoulder, and as seen there, watches the match essentially. So interesting gimmick, and the natural Butch Reed being accompanied by the Slickster, which we see a couple of times as well. So definitely WWE at this time loves three things: they love tag matches. They love nicknames with their gimmicks. So, I'm talking like the Natural Butch Reed, or George the Animal Steel, or Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Definitely love those nicknames within their name. And they love a good manager. So we see another one here kind of introduced on WrestleMania 3. KP, what'd you think of this match?
To sound like a broken record or anything, but it was all right. It was okay. It was fine. It's so difficult to really hype up a lot of these, but it was yeah, it was okay. We had a little bit of the matchup. Just let's talk about it here. Koko Beware, he's going for a high crossbody at the very end of the matchup. It gets reversed, and Butch Reed just like, as he's done the reversal, and he transfers the body weight over, so he's going for a cover. He just pulls up the tights, and that's enough for Butch to get the victory. So yeah, it's one of those classic wins. Grabbing the tights. We see a few of these sort of like reversing crossbody finishes over the first three WrestleManias. I think it might be the third or fourth one we've seen, and out of three shows, there's actually quite a lot for a very specific niche like this. It's quite interesting that they do sort of like go on that quite often. But yeah, this was the latest installment of that. But yeah, mixed in with the grabbing of the tights as well. So obviously, the heel way of doing things. Yeah, it was interesting for sure. Slickster attacking Koko post match, beating a man while he's down, I suppose. But Tito Santana comes on down to aid Koko Beware, and to basically come and rescue him. That then turns the tide. Slickster gets absolutely destroyed in the ring by Tito. Yeah, and then Koko's fending off Butch as well, alongside Tito to end this particular segment and this match, just generally speaking. So yeah, it was like I say, I can't really say too much about the match, but it was okay. The flow was fine. It was a quick one as well. It wasn't like a long match or anything. That is the problem. You just need them to be a bit longer, and then you can get your teeth into them. Then you can enjoy them a bit more, and then you can really sort of like have a good time watching them. But by the time you get into the big bits, and then it just ultimately ends straight away, it's so hard to do that. And I know I've spoken about that so often here, but it is literally the running theme. So every time it comes up, I'm going to mention it, and that's exactly the case in this match as well. But yeah, I mean, the parrot watching on was cool. I like that. 5 out of 10 from me personally. It was just in the middle. It was okay.
And mentioning again, WrestleMania is supposed to be for that casual audience. So when you have new guys that you hadn't seen before, I think it is kind of crucial to give them more of a story. And this one just felt like there wasn't much of a story there. So, in addition to, giving them 5 more minutes, you also have it was good while we saw it. But, alas, here we are. Yeah, the win, getting the roll up with the handful of tights. We love a good roll up win. Again, very heavy theme throughout WrestleMania 3, those kind of finishes that you don't love to see. But yeah, pretty cool seeing the Birdman bring down a parrot. I think that was a pretty interesting gimmick. I don't think I've heard of that one before, so I don't think this one probably lasted very long. But a cool while it was here. Another interesting trend we see Tito Santana come back, who was obviously in the match right before this one. I've noticed that if someone is going to come back and assist, you see Brutus earlier, and of course Jimmy Hart. When they have more than one appearance, they're usually pretty close in the card together. So maybe maybe that tidbit of information will help us going forward. Let's get on to the next match, which we kind of discussed this one off air. We recently watched this one in a segment that we made that was kind of nominating some matches for WWE recently announced the iconic Mania moments, and one of us picked this match to thinking it was worthy of said moniker. So yeah, this match, if you are a fan of WWE, likely this match has been, or wrestling in general, this match has likely been recommended to you. This match is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat with George the Animal Steel going up against Randy Macho Man Savage with Elizabeth. So in an era where calling the match on the fly was the norm, this was not Randy Savage's method. Instead, he preferred each spot meticulously planned. So much, in fact, that before his WrestleMania 3 match with Ricky Steamboat, Randy faxed Ricky a copy of the script to make sure he had familiarized himself with every single aspect of the match. And if what we got was the plan, you can't fault that logic, right? So obviously we've talked about this match on the push before, KP, but watching this one more time, this was a very welcome change for what felt like a very dull Mania up until this point. What have you got for this one on your latest watch?
Oh, this was great. Like, after watching so many matches that are just okay and average and whatever in the middle, this was just such a breath of fresh air. It's a quality contest between both men. I could go on for a long time about how good this match really is, and I'm going to do a little bit of that. As a wrestling display, technically, it is brilliant. This is real graps for a large part of it. So many near falls. I think the style of wrestling back then, you didn't really see that too often in these matches. But just the amount of near falls and, like, the quick covers and just the technical ability on show, especially from Ricky Steamboat. I loved it. It's so good, so fresh after watching so many mediocre matches. But this was just a way of just being like, right, this is wrestling. And this is what WrestleMania is about, making matches like these. And for me personally, out of the first 3 WrestleManias, this is in a completely different category to any other match on the first 3 shows. It is in a league of its own, like, just so far away in terms of quality, in terms of storytelling, in terms of everything that goes into a match. This is just so far away, and that is a compliment to this match because it does everything right. It does everything. The fundamentals are there. The enthusiasm is there from the crowd. They're loving it. They're really invested. You can hear them getting loud as the match goes on. You can hear them getting louder and louder and more on the edge of their seats because they know that it's going to be coming to an end at some point, but they just don't know when. And yeah, everything that happens. You got the outside interference. George Steele's there. Miss Elizabeth is there. She's not too much involved, to be fair. It's more on George Steele helping out Ricky. Not really doing an awful lot, but obviously towards the very end of the matchup, you've got Macho Man Randy Savage. The referee's down at this point, by the way. Macho goes to grab the ring bell and attempts to use it off of the top rope. George Steele actually takes the bell from his grasp. Macho somehow gets it back really quickly, to be fair, too. He just stands on George's shoulder or something. I think the camera sort of goes down as it happens. You can't really tell too much, but either way, he takes it back from George Steele, knocks him down, pretty quickly. And then he gets back up again to go for the exact same spot that he was going to be doing anyway. And then George just shoves him off the top rope this time instead, causing him to land in the ring. Commentators say that he lands on the bell, which, sort of like stumbles and staggers him. He attempts to power slam Ricky Steamboat when he gets back up to his feet. But Steamboat counters into a cradle, and with the shoulders down, gets the win and becomes the new Intercontinental Champion. But yeah, this is the first big WrestleMania match in my opinion, and the first good one, truly good one as well. Just a great showcase of both men and an absolute wrestling masterclass display, especially from Steamboat. Yeah, I loved it. What a matchup! I think rightfully so. It is one of those matches that I think if you haven't watched, you probably should do. And yeah, I recommend it very highly. I gave this one a 9.5 out of 10. 9.25, 9.5, around that area. Basically, and that's that's in line with modern day. These are all in line with modern day ratings. So this match ages very, very well. It doesn't lose track. It's kind of like a fine wine. It just grows with age. I think personally, for me speaking, it doesn't drop in quality at all. Like you put this match up on any of the cards nowadays, and people are giving it a warm reception. I can guarantee that as well. So yeah, it's a tremendous contest. Absolutely loved it, and wow, was it very much needed after watching so many matches that are just ugh.
Absolutely. I don't think I could have said it better myself. Just felt like I was doing a chore for a lot of this Mania, and this really got me on the edge of my seat. Obviously, I obviously know what happened, seen it many times, but to see it again, after watching what we had watched before, it definitely hits a little harder. And mentioned earlier the crowd being very hot for Roddy Piper. They were very hot for Steamboat as well. At this point, Randy had held that IC title for 14 months. So the crowd was desperate to see that title off of him and desperate to see Ricky hold it. And so we did get that. Up until this point, this was the longest match in Mania history. And honestly, it doesn't feel like it. It goes by so fast. Both of these men bring their A game, a technical classic, a match that you kind of said aged like a fine wine because it was a match that was way ahead of its time. And very similar to, like you said, this match could happen today and people would still go crazy for it. The only complaints I have, very nitpicking, are Jesse Ventura's complaining finally got to me. He'd been, I think, a bit more complaining, kind of color commentator. And for whatever reason, I was just wanting to watch the match, and he'd been going on quite a bit throughout the night, and during this match he started to really get to me. I'm just like, please stop talking. I just wanted to watch the match. And then of course the roll-up win. I would have of course rather have seen Steamboat get a clean victory, but regardless, still often dubbed one of the best match of the 80s. And up until this point, watching through Manias, and we have a couple more to go for the 80s. But I think it's going to be hard to beat this one. I, of course, gave out my first rating, perfect rating, that of a 10 out of 10. Yeah, there's not much more you could do to make this any better. So, yeah, definitely a soft spot in my heart for this one, and will always be one of my favorites. Moving on to the next match, we have Honky Tonk Man with, of course, Jimmy Hart making his third and final appearance, going up against Jake the Snake Roberts with guest appearance Alice Cooper. So, yeah, this was different. This was definitely a change of pace from the last one. KP, what'd you think of the actual match and, of course, those post-match shenanigans?
And back down to reality off of off of that stellar contest just before this. Yeah, we're back to the meh. We're back to the meh, and it was all right. It was fine. We got big Jake the Snake Roberts. I think one of my probably most underrated guys back in this era. To be fair, I got a lot of love for the guy. To be honest, Jimmy Hart being involved yet again, as obviously you've mentioned. Honky Tonk is just a crazy crazy character. I always found him entertaining. Gonna take him seriously? Nah, probably not. But he was always quite fun to watch. Alice Cooper as well is a really interesting addition here. I wasn't aware that he was actually a manager in a wrestling match before, so this is brand new to me personally. But yeah, interesting dynamic in the contest. Like, I wasn't entirely sure who was the bigger star at this point, so I think just going into it, I was just happy to see both men just doing their thing. A little bit more about the match itself. Jimmy Hart, towards the end of the matchup, he's pulling the leg of Jake as he's weighing up his DDT, looking to end the contest. The distraction of holding the leg causes Honky Tonk to go for a cover, and as he's doing so, like he's just like a little small package type thing. He puts his hand on the rope, and using that as leverage, he's able to get the 1-2-3 over Jake Roberts and get the victory. Yeah, it's all about the end of the contest though. You got Jake and Alice who trapped Jimmy Hart sort of just like in their clutches. That's post match, and Jake locks in a full Nelson. You got Alice Cooper who's just like teasing him with Damien the Snake. It's just like literally just edges closer and closer to him. It's getting right up to his face with it. And yeah, then after a little while, you've got Jimmy just sort of like on the mat, and Jake just essentially just places slash lands the snake right on top of Jimmy Hart, who, by what the commentator said, has a very big fear of snakes. Whether that's obviously true or not, whatever. But in terms of his character, very, very, very afraid of snakes. So you can obviously imagine how petrifying that would be if you were in that position when you're very scared of snakes, just having one literally placed on your lap, whilst you're down, literally having a lie down because someone's just put a big submission on you. So yeah, not the greatest of endings of the segment here for Jimmy Hart, but yeah, it was very very clear that Honky Tonk had nothing to do with that post match bit. He wanted out of there as fast as possible, and he just let Jimmy Hart just get teased by the snake. It was quite an interesting segment, but the match itself was okay. It was fine. Like I say, another quickish match. Not really an awful lot to really go by, but yeah, from what we did see, it wasn't too bad. I gave it a 5.5 out of 10, which is the last of my 5.5s for this show. I think it's four in total.
So yeah, I thought this match was entertaining. I think you have two up and comers. Jake making his debut last year at WrestleMania, and Honky Tonk. We know all about Honky Tonk. We know how he works, and he very much has that heel kind of mentality down and packed. That was always his thing. So to see him get a roll up win once again, watching another roll up win. Of course, this one with his feet on the ropes for support. Yeah, don't love that, but the match itself was decent enough for what it was once, for what we got. So once again, throwing that one out there. Yeah, the ending, at least post match, we very much know that Vince loves to make things real. You talked about Jimmy Hart being scared of snakes, or at least that's the bet that they were selling. Funny enough, that is a very real fear of him. So you tell Vince that he's going to take advantage of that. So the flailing you see in the post match was very real, and apparently very seriously strained his neck. I don't know if that was more of just a bit, even still, like the rumored, kind of fun fact, if you will. But it did appear to be very real. And so I think it was. And that very much would have been me had someone try to put that snake on me as well. So I get it. But yeah, luckily, this was Jimmy Hart's third and final appearance of the night. But yeah, they really played on his actual real life fears, which kind of messed up, but you could argue it was effective. So I gave this match a 5.5 out of 10 actually as well. Yeah, interesting to see these two newcomers in WWE, but yeah, just get 5 more minutes. Going on to the next match, we have Nikolai Volkov and Iron Sheik reuniting once again, going up against the Killer Bees. Before the match, Nikolai, of course, wants to sing the Russian national anthem for us, but is cut off by Jim Duggan with a 2x4 with an American flag hanging from it. We have hit on this before, but WWE likes to work those foreign countries as the bad guys and the USA guys as the good guys. Definitely hit on that one. And this one just didn't do it for me. I think Jim Duggan's kind of whole vibe of being there just didn't really make a ton of sense. And then for him to cost the match as well, and then after costing the good guys the match, wanting the crowd to chant USA. I don't know what was going on with this one. KP, what can you make any more sense of this one? This one just didn't do it for me at all.
Don't worry, it didn't do it for me either. I thought this one was a weird way of having a penultimate match of WrestleMania. We saw a tag team contest with Nikolai and Iron Sheik. I think from WrestleMania 1 where they won the tag team titles, and that actually was a really good match. I think it might have been my match of the night. I can't quite remember, but either way, it was up there with the best ones for me personally. And then seeing them and then in this one, yeah, it's not quite the same the same vibe as that previous tag team match. Let's put it that way. Killer Bees looked all right, to be fair. They look like a decent tag team, meshing together quite well, working together as a unit. Again, Jesse Ventura, not too happy with the tag moves. As he was for the entire night. But yeah, when it comes to how this one went down in the end, so yeah, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, he just starts chasing Nikolai Volkov around a ringside, and then ultimately it gets into the ring where you've got Sheik who's locking in a camel clutch, and then Duggan just sees Sheik locking in this clutch, and then just turns back around and then just hits him over the back with a 4x4. So, yeah, disqualification happened in probably the most casual way possible. It almost felt like two different situations overlapping with each other here. Duggan was just on a walk around the ring and into the ring as well, chasing someone down, and then he's like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, I'll just hit you whilst I'm walking past here, and then we can just carry on." And then the match ends in disqualification. People look shocked by what's happened, and they end up just celebrating and cheering as if they've won or whatever. But they do have the last laugh. They just stood there, celebrating, but they lost. So it was a really weird vibe, this one. I don't really understand the logic behind it at all. I gave it a 4 out of 10 because up until that point it actually was all right, but then wow, that finish was horrible. It was god awful. So yeah, I can't make much more of it either. It just seems so unnecessarily casual and just bizarre. So yeah, I don't know. Didn't really rate it, but 4 is pretty poor.
At this point, WrestleMania 3, shame on us for expecting anything better, a good finish or a lengthy match with a good story. This one kind of lacked all of that. Like you said, the match was good enough, was building up nicely until it wasn't. So definitely that moniker being used a lot here, but we can't make something out of nothing. I gave this match a 4 out of 10. Yeah, the finish really kind of brought this one down for me. Had Iron just gotten the win there, I think that you're probably looking at like a 5.5, 6, which is better than a lot of the matches have been getting tonight. So with that, let's swiftly move on to the main event of WrestleMania 3, which has Hulk Hogan defending his World Heavyweight Championship up against Andre the Giant, yet again with Bobby the Brain Heenan. I think it's apparent by the match, but it took quite a bit of convincing Andre by Vince McMahon to agree to this match in the first place. At 40 years of age, Andre was already in extreme amounts of pain at this point in his career, so much so that he had to undergo back surgery just to get ready for this match. Vince was, however, prepared if Andre didn't go through with this match. He had longtime villain Paul Orndorff ready and on standby. Obviously, he didn't have a match on this card. He had him ready to go for Hulk Hogan if things didn't work out. So that was one way they prepped for this match. Another way, if you're a fan of wrestling at all or you like Andre at all, you've of course heard the stories of his drinking and how much in large quantities usually to possibly help himself relax and or help with the pain. Andre drank 14 bottles of wine before this match. So, with all that being said, KP, what do you think of this main event? Obviously, we are all familiar with the Slam heard round the world. What do you think of this one, seeing it kind of live with WrestleMania 3 along with the other matches?
You know what? When I saw the pre-match promo from Andre the Giant and his absolute stare that he had down the camera, I thought something was looking a bit odd. That makes so much sense now. For someone to have drank 14 bottle of wine, you said 14 bottles, that's absolutely extraordinary. And then to put on a match where, he didn't look like he was drunk. So the guy's an absolute unit, fair freaking play. But obviously it's going to take a lot to to make this guy stumble and stagger around, right? But yeah, in terms of the matchup itself, there is a reason why the most notable thing from this match is the slam, and that is because it is obviously the most iconic moment from probably the match itself, maybe even across the course of the night. Obviously, you can talk about the absolutely wonderful matchup between Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat. But in terms of like the biggest moment, I don't know, maybe this one is up there with that. But in terms of the match itself, it's not great. It's very bad. That is the only good moment in the contest, and that is right as it's about to end. I think just you've got the two big men staring each other down at the start, and it looks like Battle of Two Titans is about to happen. And then it's a very obviously it's going to be, I understand that, but it's a very slow, very methodical match that never really gets going too much. Like the biggest thing that happens is Hulk hulks up, and then knocks Andre the Giant down, to be fair. And then once he's back up, then he obviously hits that power slam, which is obviously a huge moment in itself. Goes for the leg drop straight afterwards, and then that's enough to get the win and retain his world championship. So, yeah, it was a really sluggish matchup. There's a bear hug in there from Andre, and it feels like he's in the bear hug for probably about 5 minutes or so. I don't know if it exactly is that, but it's probably not too far away from it. But it feels like a very long time, and it's a really poor bear hug as well. Just an FYI. I this isn't a match for me. Maybe if you like big meaty men slapping meat, perhaps this is great. But I like it when there's normally a little bit of variety in there. They're at least able to be a little bit more agile. And obviously, I know Andre was going through a lot of this time, so fair enough. Hulk does have a bit more agility than the Giant, and naturally so. He's not 7'5". So that does make sense. But I just think for me personally, these are my opinionistic views on the match. I just don't. It's not for me. It's not a match made for myself. So I gave it a 4.5 out of 10, purely for the fact that you've got that big moment in there with the power slam. You've got Hulk sort of like bringing up a comeback, which is a decent way of doing things. The face heel dynamic, two big men fighting off. You can tell it's a big WrestleMania match, and that's absolutely what it needs to be for a main event. But just the quality isn't there for me personally, so that's why I'm knocking it down a fair bit. 4.5 I think is fair for me personally. What did you make of this one, Nick? Do you think it's a WrestleMania main event caliber matchup? Because I think I would have loved to have seen Steamboat and Macho Man main event this, but obviously when you got Hogan, you got the World Championship, it sort of writes itself. It has to be the main event, so I get why. But wouldn't it have been nice to have seen that other one as the main event?
Yeah, of course. And I think wrestling purists such as ourselves would love to see that as the main event. But, in terms of Hulk Hogan, this is his third WrestleMania in a row where he is main eventing. So that's just kind of his thing, right? We've heard the politicking, we've heard all of that. I'm sure if that even was pitched to him that he wasn't going to main event, especially with Andre the Giant, who, that is a WrestleMania on paper. That is a WrestleMania worthy match. And the crowd obviously very hot for this one, and rightfully so. A couple of spots in this match where Andre steps on Hogan's back, that had to, I don't think you can make that look, not make that painful. And I just couldn't imagine having that spot. And then, of course, Andre getting knocked down off his feet, which commentary hit hard that was the first time that had ever been done. And then, of course, the slam heard around the world. You take out that slam, though, is this match really worthy of a main event? You could obviously argue no, but that moment is obviously iconic and often believed to be the first time. Apparently that wasn't. They've been doing it for quite some time on the house shows, I guess. But for casual viewers and most of the world, this was the first time, and this was the slam heard around the world. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, another successful title defense for Hogan. I would argue probably the worst main event of the three, but again, you were working with what you had, right? So yeah, a cool moment, but definitely will never be at the top of WrestleMania main events or just matches for either of these guys. Yeah, in terms of the moment, you try to separate them is great, but for the match itself, I gave it a 5 out of 10. Probably most of that being for the moment, and even I really struggled with the rating. Felt like down in the fours, up in the sixes. I just couldn't decide. Because it's so important, this moment. But in the grand scheme of things, not a great wrestling match, as you kind of hit on plenty. But yeah, it is what it is. Knowing the backstory, I think it makes it kind of that more impressive. Clearly Andre not in a good way, and I think that does show a bit. And Hulk isn't he's just one of those guys that isn't able to carry a match. You could argue he did a decent job here, but oftentimes we don't see him kind of play that role. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the ending here. This was WrestleMania 3, and honestly, this to me, I think, was probably the worst of the three so far. The overall rating, I gave a 5 out of 10. But in terms of going back and watching, I think you could make the argument for the main event. But then obviously the Steamboat Savage definitely being the main. If you take that one away, I think this overall is definitely a lot lower. That definitely boosted it up. 5 out of 12 of these matches were tag matches. Only 2 title matches, neither the tag team championship titles, which we hit on, or the women's championship was defended for whatever reason. Uh, so yeah, WWE really tried to hit the formula that worked over the last 2 Manias and hit those tag matches hard. But yeah, somehow those were now kind of very, very, very mundane. Those became through this WrestleMania. So that coupled with some DQ finishes, roll up finishes, and count out victories. Yeah, this one just got a bit old, and maybe it's because we've seen it so many times with the first 2 Manias. But yeah, this one definitely the least favorite of the 3 for me. KP, let's hear your overall kind of takeaways here, and we'll go ahead and wrap up this WrestleMania 3 review.
Yeah, I mean, you probably get what my main takeaway is going to be. You know, it was a WrestleMania filled with lots of mediocrity. There was just so many matches that were okay, were blah, were meh, were fine, whatever. And they didn't really sort of like stand out on their own. You'd never see anybody going crazy about the majority of these matches. Only really 2 or 3 matches that I think actually maybe just 2 that I rated above a 6.5 and above. And that was Haynes Hernandez, and then obviously way out in front in a league of its own. You got Ricky Steamboat and Macho Man Randy Savage. So yeah, I think if Macho Man and Randy Savage wasn't on this card, I don't know what rating I would have gave it, because my overall rating as an average was a 5.5. That's obviously boosted a bit by Savage and Steamboat. So you're probably talking like 5 probably without that one, maybe even a little lower. But yeah, it was a very bang average show, except for that one contest. These WrestleMania matches at the very early days, and I've mentioned it, there are a lot on the card, and I think it maybe is oversaturation at the expense of some quality in these contests, which is a shame, because there are a lot of guys on here that obviously, you know, are being showcased, and just a little bit more, few more minutes with each match, maybe they would be a lot better. But naturally, yeah, they're weakened by the short time, as well as some questionable booking choices to end these contests as well. Yeah, just a few glaring issues there, but you know, we'll see what happens going forward. This, you know, we're on our road, and so far it's been a little bit rocky in parts, but there have been some good bits. So let's hope for more of those going forward.
Yeah, I think, you know, everything you said, very fair to say. This one just felt like a drug a bit, unfortunately. And you, like you said, you take out the Macho Man and Steamboat match, and then you take out the Slam around the world. This WrestleMania really didn't provide much to remember on, and for me personally, not one that I'm going to go back and watch outside of those kind of aforementioned moments and matches. So with that is our WrestleMania 3 review, and with that, this has been another episode and the latest in our WrestleMania project or series, going through every single WrestleMania 1 through 41, leading up to WrestleMania 42. So yeah, we will, of course, we will be back shortly with number 4 through 41. But for now, this has been the latest WrestleMania episode. And if you like what we're putting out here, or have any comments, disagreements, or anything of the sort, please let us know in the comments below. And of course, we love those likes and subscribes as well. But until next time, this has been The Push with Nick and KP, and we'll see you then. Take care.